So Sarthak, tell me, where does it hurt to be a software engineer and then watch your MacBook get formatted for a hardware issue?
I told him so many times that you don't need to format my hard drive to replace a display, but he didn't listen. And I had to back up so many things into SD cards that I've been using for my cameras. And finally, I get everything done, and the guy gives it back to me and says, "Hey, we actually didn't need to format because it was just a display." Can you believe that?
Yeah, we live in a sad, sad world.
Yeah. So I think that is one of the reasons why I thought maybe we should do this episode, annoying habits of coders and engineers in general.
Yep, let's get into it.
Yep. Alright, welcome back to another episode, Soumya and our viewers. So today, as we said, we're going to do annoying habit of coders. And have you ever met annoying coders?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into all that. But before, introductions for our new viewers. So I'm Sarthak, I'm a software engineer at Amazon. With me is?
I'm Soumya, I'm a software engineer at Microsoft.
Yeah. So on an average basis, do you face annoying coders a lot of the time or some of the time?
I think it is some of the time. And to not come off as entitled here, I would say, I also have some annoying qualities which we will get into.
A lot of them actually, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're a sibling. You find everything about me annoying, but either way, I think, we'll get to it. What about you?
I feel like I don't know any annoying coders, but I think every coder out there has annoying habits because this profession by itself or this skill by itself attracts analytical minds, and they tend to come with analytical egos and inflated egos and bring their own opinions. And whenever opinions clash, annoying habits come out of it. I'm pretty much sure I have annoying habits that other developers will find irritating to work with. But they're not making a podcast, so they don't get to talk about it. Right.
Yeah,
so
that's the plus side of us, I guess.
Yeah. So there is no format to this. Okay, I'm just thinking we'll just keep bouncing points off each other. So
in the terms of the Instagram trend, thoda casual hai.
Yeah. We're keeping it casual today.
Yeah.
Right. So why don't you get things rolling? What annoys you the most? Or I guess they need not be in order. What is the first thing that comes to your mind that annoys you most when it comes to developers?
Okay, so I think the first one I wanted to lead with is something that happens way too commonly as well, right? Which is that when somebody messages you on Teams or Slack saying just the word hi with no follow-up context, and then you say hi back, and then you have to wait like 10 hours later to get the context, I think that is like the most annoying thing to me. And that happens way too frequently, right?
I definitely agree. And I think in Amazon, we actually have a wiki page dedicated to saying like no hello.
Yeah. And Microsoft has it too. Yeah.
And it goes into pretty detail of what kind of for the lack of a better word, a-hole you are, right? If you're just sending a hi and not responding with your query at all. But why do you think it's, what is the best way to do it though?
So I would say it should be more like, hi, I have a question on A and B, right? Or, hi, I have been working on this and I'm stuck here. Or, hi, I wanted to have a quick sync on so-and-so. Can we meet at so-and-so time? So if you have a question, phrase it in the same message. If you want a follow-up, phrase it in the same message. Don't, because professional chats are very different than personal chats, right?
Yeah.
I don't want people to, you value time when you're working in a professional environment. So I think that just saves people time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I also think it's like, taking advantage of the tools at hand. So if you actually look back into history, people said hello because back in time when you had those rotary phones, you had to dial in and the connection was made through a third party, which will go to a third party.
Yeah.
You used to say hello as a sign that, whether can you hear me or not. So if you get a hello back, then you're kind of sure that, they can hear me and they're there. So let me talk through.
Yeah.
So basically by saying hello on Slack, you're testing whether Slack is working or not before you're actually sending a message.
Which Slack or Teams will by default show you whether or not your message has gone through.
There are engineers in Slacks and Teams who are getting paid to do on-call.
Yeah.
Let them do their job. You don't have to do their job to test their product for them.
Yeah. So that comes to top of my mind. What about you? Do you want to go with one?
Yeah. I mean, I think once we decided we're going to do this topic, I think one thing that was for sure in my mind is that sadly, I don't know sadly or what, but I have heard this phrase so many times on pull requests for any code base that I'm working on is that I will write tests in a follow-up. You see, a follow-up pull request. And I just sit there and thinking like, if you didn't write tests.
Alexa, play Deja Vu by Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah, oh, you have faced it too.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, that's what. If you haven't written tests, how am I supposed to believe you that this thing works?
Yeah, and to add to that, there is also like just writing sort of hello world test cases just to get your code through, right? I
Yeah.
think these two fall in the same category of like annoying habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, like am I just supposed to believe you? Like trust me, bro. Like trust me, bro, it works.
Yeah, and there's an answer that makes it worse. Okay, so I sometimes I'll think like, okay, maybe this is a coaching movement. I'll go to them, I'll have a conversation around it. Like I'll ask them this question, they'll answer something. I'll answer, this. Let's build this up. So I'll go ahead and ask them, like, hey, so I see you didn't write tests and you want to do it in follow up, but do you have the confidence to roll out this change? And they'll be like, yeah, I tested it manually. Okay, at that point I'm just like pure poker face. It's like, did I just hear you? Did you just say you tested it manually?
Yeah, I mean, this is such basic stuff, right? Write good tests, document what you have tested, not tested. I mean, in work fields like mine, you can't, we don't have like the best unit test coverage because we are mostly on infra and service side. But there are ways that you can, automate things where you can verify those scenarios. So I think it makes very important sense to, just document what you have tested, make sure things are fine. But somehow developers miss those very basic things.
Yeah, and I think this just comes down to the conversation that we have, right? You don't need things to be perfect, but striving for it is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? So just strive for that perfection even if you don't get it. If you do this stuff like this, I don't know how far you're gonna get in your career without like causing major sermons in your life.
So I also used to be like in my when I was just starting out, obviously I also used to just do like basic test cases, like what we call hello world test cases, right? But over time I've realized that does not serve me well in the long run. So now when I'm doing a feature or when I'm trying to write code, obviously I'll do my best to come up with test cases, but I have also develop this practice that if I know that a senior knows this piece better, I would just reach out to them to see if there's like anything more I should cover. I think that kind of saves my seniors time that, I can just add it before sending them the pull request. And it also helps them that, they don't have to come back and tell me to add ABC. Later.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good advice on how you can actually handle these situations.
Yeah.
I guess we're giving advices on annoying habits, but I think that's kind of it's gonna go like that, right?
Yeah.
So advices come out naturally out of things that are not aligning.
I mean, be curious, not judgmental, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice quote. I forgot who said it.
Ted Lasso?
No, Ted Lasso quoted it. Okay.
Yeah.
It was said by someone in a book.
I see.
But
Okay.
But you did mention documentation, and that kind of I have a lot of points on documentation also. But do you have anything to add in documentation in general from developers? Any annoying habits there?
I mean, this one I think I am guilty of. Is that I also assume that my code is self-explanatory and the stuff you need to debug that is self-explanatory. So I'm not great at like documenting or adding comments in my code. So that is one annoying thing I think a lot of developers do. They take documentation a little for granted. What about you?
They do, but do you think that code can be self-explanatory in the first place? Like I want your answer on that. Like, do you think it's like a 50-50 thing or it's like a black and white thing? Sorry, 50-50 and black and white mean the same thing. Is it like a black and white thing?
Or is it like a gray area?
Gray area.
So I think it's a gray area, right? There are things that you can, follow the best practices, name things well, follow good class conventions. Most of your code will be self-explanatory. But things like, for example, test cases, right? It doesn't hurt to add a 2-line comment to it explaining what the test case does. It just helps the next developer come in and see what tests already exist and then build on top of it. So things like that, I think, do better with documentation.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Sometimes I feel like code can be self-explanatory, and if you name your variables, right, and I would actually argue that is a kind of documentation.
Yeah.
Naming your variables,
Naming
right?
your variables,
It's
right,
documentation embedded in the code. But test cases are something that nobody can understand unless you set the context as to what the hell are you trying to do in this unit test, right?
Yeah.
So the name can only get you so much documentation. So that's an excellent point. I think tests definitely require more comments, and code also. You think like you can get everything explained by variables and the way you're naming your switch cases and whatever or function names, but ultimately you can add comments. I think adding one extra comment is not really gonna
it's not
hurt
really
you.
hard. I mean, so one thing that you said, like naming your variables and naming your methods, right, is self-explanatory. But one example here is, say you created a class, adding a single line of what that class is supposed to do is a good thing for other developers to carry on, right?
Yeah.
So they know that what kind of methods can actually go in this class.
True.
So things like that, I think, need to be kept in the back of your mind
you can
whenever you're
definitely
coding.
like your vision for that class, like this class does this now, but this is my vision for it, and please don't mingle it with other stuff that you're bringing from there, like so that I think definitely helps.
But do you also think that over commenting is a thing, that assigning x to y or things like that? Have you ever come across code like that?
I have actually. So there was this legacy piece of code I worked in Amazon itself, which was, I think, the ratio of the number of lines of code to number of comments was 3:1. Like, so it had very little code, but a lot of comments. Okay, and it did help initially, but now I find it a hindrance because if you change anything, you might miss to change a comment which is describing that behavior, and then that comment is legacy. And if someone else comes and reads that comment, he'll be like confused, right? This is not happening anymore, but the comment is still here. So if you add too many comments, I think you can run into that area where your comments become outdated very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen so many code reviews where people change the underlying behavior but forget to update the comment which is talking about that behavior.
So is this also like a good code review tip to also see comments attached to
definitely
functions?
I would say definitely see like comments. People ignore comments very easily, so it's definitely important to see that.
I see. So what we're saying is like find a good balance of how much is good for other developers to carry forward.
Definitely, yeah.
What else other stuff did you have?
Let me take it into another direction now. Okay, so I think we'll talk about a couple of them, and all of them are kind of very code related. So I'm gonna give an annoying habit which is technology related. So once in a while, I will definitely meet a developer who just wants to integrate the latest technology out there or latest library out there which is making the rounds into the product, even if we don't need it at all, right? I think this was definitely the case when crypto and Bitcoin and everything with the, what do you call it? What's the right word I'm missing? Blockchain, yeah. I don't know, brain part. Okay, yeah. So when blockchain was around, like I was so fed up of everyone coming and asking, like even product managers will come and ask like, hey, can we do something with blockchain? I was like, what? Yeah, so what's your opinion on that? Yeah,
right now I think we're seeing that way with like languages like Rust and all those things.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think when somebody brings that to me and I'm like, oh, my sweet summer child. I mean, as much as I also agree that we should always have latest tech wherever we can fit into it, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot redo 30 years of work just because this new tech has come in. There are existing services, there are existing businesses running on top of what we have done. So it makes perfect sense to look for opportunities where you can accommodate latest tech, but you have to like kind of be okay with the fact that that might not always be possible.
Yeah, I think one of my principal engineers in Amazon explains this concept really well. So he has a series of questions that he will ask anyone when they want to do something, and it's like, first, can it be done with the existing ecosystem? If not, why? So that why has to be really strong. Second, can it be done with something that some other team is doing, but we can leverage it as it is? If not, why? And if that second why also is not answered, then you are like, can a new technology help us do it? If yes, why? So you order it in that direction, and that should be, so people will go to that last question first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, this is a technology I'm going to use, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I think that's a good way to
Yeah,
reason about
I
it.
like how this approach is like so data driven, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That justify what you have to do, otherwise why do I put like dev effort into it?
I mean, I have seen those questions being asked in my teams, like, to me and to other people, and I've seen the answers. It just makes the whole process so simple. It kills all these the tech bro ideas, I call them, right? Right there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we actually do get an answer and we end up taking that technology, right? So that definitely helps us. It expands our capabilities in general. So yeah, that's one thing I find really, really annoying when people come and just ask me to integrate technology. I do have one more thing here. So and this might be just a general advice. Strong technologies which last more than a decade are very rare, right? I think we have only seen like a handful of them actually stay beyond 10 years and not get outdated, right? I think C++ being one example. Java, I would say, is another example. But if you see, like, most of the fads that were there have died down. jQuery, I would say, was one of the strongest
that picked up so fast and it died down the same way.
And now I think people prefer React directly, or they prefer using other frameworks that are out there, right? So jQuery is still there. I would say it's dying, but just an example of how things can change so quickly.
Like, right? Things can trend so fast, but you don't really know if they're gonna last anyways.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Okay. What else?
So, because we wanted to do a bit of people like stuff and not just like purely technical thing. I have one, right? Have you ever met a developer who asks you a question, right? They're like, hey, it's not working or whatever. And then you ask what's wrong. And the reply is simply, it's not working, without like as much as even like a simple Google search of like the error code they're getting.
I know, right? This happens so much. Like, and I think it falls into the same realm of it's working on my machine.
Yeah.
That also comes a lot where like they're like, hey, it worked here. Why didn't it work there? It's like, that's the job to figure out. Yeah. But I have faced this too.
Yeah.
And like, what is the first advice you'll give to these kind of problems that come?
Look at the error code, look at logs, look at what's being broken, find if it's a generic thing. For example, I'll give if it's, say you're working on gRPC and if you're getting like, your protobufs aren't compiling or things like that, these are very general technology things. Do a simple Google search, go to Stack Overflow. If it's something specific to your company, that some framework that is owned by your company, you're facing errors there, go look at documentation. I'm pretty sure some wiki exists in your internal team as well to refer to errors and stuff. And lastly, if you are reaching out to some other person, explain your problem. Like, hey, I was trying to do A, I got error B, I tried to do so and so, and now here's where I'm stuck. It just makes it so much easier for the other person to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is a skill to explain what problem you're facing, not just solving that problem, right? Because at one point, everybody needs help. No one can just keep going on and on. For example,
this is a collaborative job.
Yeah. For example, you might be working on a company framework which actually does not have documentation into this one specific area, which is your requirement, and you have a deadline tomorrow. Right? Otherwise, there's like some project manager is like billions of dollars of loss. Okay, if you don't fix this. So whatever story behind it.
Yeah.
So in those cases, I feel like the skill of explaining your problem is everything, right? I guess we can do this small segment here. Maybe we both tell how we like explain our problems, what is our mindset behind it. I mean, I have put a lot of thought into it personally. I have sat down and actually decided like this is how I'm going to approach this. So I don't know if you have done that or not. Okay. But do you want to go first?
Sure. So when I'm stuck on something, right? And this is not like a design level thing. This is mostly just like if I'm trying to say run a test or if I'm trying to debug an issue and I'm stuck somewhere, right? My approach is basically to first go through documentation, see what kind of errors I'm getting, do a Google search, look at all through the wikis. And if I don't find anything, I would probably reach out to the person who maybe owns that module, right? Or who has made the last commit to that module. And I would probably reach out to them saying that, hey, I was trying to do X, Y, and Z scenario. I have added so and so things. This is my test case, but the log says that I'm failing here. But I do see step A, B, C happening. Do you know what might be wrong here? Or have a short sync with them, show them what the problem is. That's my approach. What about you?
So I was only asking about the second part, like how do you explain your problem to some other person that you need help from? So I have a different approach. What I do is, first of all, as usual with any conversation I have, I will break ice. I'll take like a minute, just ask them about their day, like what is going. Sometimes it's annoying to people, but
I agree with that too. Don't leave your human side out of work.
Right. And I won't keep it long.
Okay,
sometimes it goes long because the other person starts telling some life story and I'm like, what? Okay, but it's just break ice. Okay, like do it for 30 seconds, and then I clearly the first thing I make clear in one line will be, what is my expectation out of this conversation? So for example, let's say I'm stuck in some exception. Okay, I will start after the breaking ice. My first sentence will be like, hey XYZ, I reached out to you because I'm facing this exception, and I need your help to understand this exception, since I think that you might have faced it before. I will take a couple of minutes now to explain to you what I have done till now and where I'm facing this exception, and then I want your opinion on it. I feel like this really helps people set your expectation to them. So and I'll tell you how I arrived at this, and the rest of it will be similar to you. Okay, where I explain the problem and everything. But the reason I say this first is because human minds, they like to think from an anchor. Right? And if you don't tell your expectation first, once they're trying to understand your problem, they don't have an anchor. But if they know that, okay, he's gonna arrive that he came at this exception, so they'll be thinking that already, that okay, this can have this relation to that exception. So I feel like I have gotten the help I have received improved so much since I started doing this.
So and this is a very good point to make, right? I think one aspect of one thing is reaching out for help and everything, but the second thing to that is also asking the right questions, right? If you go to another developer and just say, hey, I'm trying to implement this and this is not working, they are less likely to help you than if you just go with them with direct questions where you need help with.
Exactly.
So I think that's a very good point.
That's the efficient way to do things, right? And I think as engineers, you need to strive for efficiency. That's the job.
That's the job.
Right.
And with since we were discussing this communication thing, another thing that was on my list was on similar lines, was that a lot of developers don't focus on the soft skills, right? They think that being technically strong is good enough, but it doesn't really, because it doesn't help what's up here if you can't put it into words for other engineers.
True. I mean, you need to communicate well, and a lot of engineers, I think it's also the curriculum in India that they're taught. They're not really I mean, I think in my 4 years of engineering, there was only one class on soft skills.
I had 0.
Right, and that was also in first year. So I think it's definitely something that everyone should learn. I think we are both self-taught in that area. And most of it comes by just practicing and just understanding human psychology.
And at least for the engineers out there who are already in the industry, I would say speak up in meetings, voice your opinion, try to voice it well. But if it is somebody who's watching it when they're in college or something, I think co-curriculars are the best way to develop soft skills. Participate in all the fests, all the events. You'll get good at speaking to different people, different sorts of people.
I mean, but a lot of people can't go back to school. Right. So,
I mean, I'm just saying people who are in college. I started with that.
So but I also feel like one of the best ways I learned was also just observing people that I found were good communicators. I found good communicators in my team, and
same here.
And just have the eye to identify, see what they're doing, and learn from that and get your own strategy going. Of course, you can't copy it, copying never works.
Yeah, but I have always felt the best communicators in a work setting are people who always come to on a call with like a agenda in their head, like the way you explained,
Yeah.
right? That this is what I'm gonna start with, this is I want out of this conversation, set the context for the other person, and then lead the way. I think that is like a simple checklist to follow.
And I think that's the basic expectation that you arrange this call.
Yeah.
So please drive it.
Please drive it.
Yeah. So I have another one on the people perception of annoying habits. Okay, since you raised the topic.
Yeah.
I so hate long, tedious stand-up updates. Right. Yeah, like I have seen like in my career, like I have attended so many types of stand-up. I have attended like good stand-up, bad stand-ups, everything. Okay. But the one thing I hate is like, first of all, let me get this clear. Long updates are fine.
Yeah.
But they should not be tedious and meaningless, right? Like, and long updates should be. You can also make the point. I guess I'm rambling a bit here.
Yeah.
That if you plan well, then it won't be long in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, like that's something I really find annoying. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, too many people stretch too much on like unimportant things. But I also feel like if you have a really good tech lead or a manager who knows the work in and out, if you are trying to BS and give meaningless updates, they're gonna see right through you, so it's hurting you in the long run.
Yeah, I think even non-tech managers see through that, because you can give long and tedious updates all day, but after a month if you have not delivered, everybody knows it's bullshit, right? So I think that's where it comes down to, bottom line. So I think you should use a stand-up time to actually, portray what you did properly, and what help you need and what you're gonna do, right? It helps you plan also your day.
It helps you plan your day. Yeah.
So that's something I hope a lot of people improve upon soon, because I just can't attend another meeting where we have like 1.5 hour stand-ups for no reason at all.
And that's the whole point of stand-ups, isn't it? That you do a short meeting, maybe at the beginning or towards the end of the day, get updates and everybody is super productive. But if you're doing like an hour-long stand-ups with even a smaller team, it's like you're being counterproductive to your own team.
Exactly, yeah. I think one thing a lot of people miss is that you should do stand-up standing up, so that at least you know that you can't do it for 1 hour.
Yeah, right? People have forgotten that in the virtual work from home era, I guess.
Yeah, so if you sit and do it, it's going to be a meeting.
Yeah.
It won't be a small sync up at all. Right. So I think we have a lot on our plates. I think we can cut the episode here. And you want to revisit it maybe next week.
I want to do a part 2 of this. I have so many on my list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we'll come back with part 2 for this, right? Yeah. All right, cool. So this was some of the annoying habits that we have faced. If you face any, do drop them in the comments. We'll definitely pick it up in the next time. Maybe, who knows, we'll also invite you to rant, because we love ranting here. So, all right, cool. All right, have a nice day. Like, comment, and subscribe. That's what she wanted me to say to you. And goodbye.